Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I'm Wening from HIIC1 and I'm from 2018. Today I want to present my paper about the strategy of the mountaineer to west the mountain. And before that, I want to explain you about the mountaineering itself. Mountaineering is commonly associated with the feats of daring in a landscape of extreme dangers, or we can call it is the outdoor activity that contains in mountains. Previously, mountaineering activity is identical with research, but nowadays the mountaineering activity changed to the new phenomenon in the young people, and we can call it as hiking. The aim of to go to mountain is not to do research, but the aim to do go mountain is to have fun or the have a holiday. This is the news. These are very news about the how the increase of people that visit the mountain. And by the Minister of Environment and Forestry records that the number of visitors on the Andong Peak reach 1,000 people every week, and it's increased every weekend or every holiday time is come. And also one of the research from M. Ilham and his friends is about the how the increase the Watts Mountain in 1 week in Andong Peak, and this is record that in the days 6 under days 8 it become the increase because they have the more visiting people. So according to that, several people want to try to decrease the Watts Mountain by doing movement or campaign about the Cape Mount. For example, of the Mount Everest. Mount Everest is the one of the biggest mountain that contains of many Watts Mountain. And the Watts Mountain itself is produced by mountain itself. So depending on the background, I want to go to do the strategy of mountain to Watts Mountain. It is a study of mountain perspective. There is previously report by the United Nations Environment Program that reports some search and solution for rabies problem in mountain in large of scale and different area, especially cooperating with local management and relating this to tourism. And in other also have the research by Gillard Minja about the effective management of after climb what's at Mazam Road and Marang Roads in Kilimanjaro Mountain, Tanzania 2013. However, both of them about from the United Nations Environment Program and also the research by Gillard Minja just try to solve by the doing after effects, not the prevent effects. So that this paper want to try to find about how to what's the mountain depend on the preventive perspective. This aim is first is the strategy to know that about the studies of people in doing preventive action to stop the Watts Mountain, and the second also the challenge the encountered in applying the strategies. Before I want to go to the next steps, I want to explain about the bab. What first bab is about the research question, and the second is the review. Next, the research method, and the last is the findings. That content is about discussion and conclusion. First is about the research question. First question is about how is the perspective of the climbers towards what's issue in the mountain, and the second, what the challenge do they encounter in applying the strategies, and the last is what the strategies itself towards the mountain issue. And next, the literature review. The first literature review by United Nations Environment Program 2016, as I explained before, about the most of mountain communities in developing countries face significant challenges in managing growing amounts of non-organic waste mountain. The most influence of volumes of solid waste in tourist and mountain expedition. Also, the next I used the literature review from Kelleher in 2014 about the worst condition at the mountain. This paper gives example about the Mount Everest that has seen an exponential increase in visitor. As we know that every year, in the Mount Everest contains up to 1,040 kilo of solid waste in estimate into remain after expedition. And the last, I used the research about the preventive action to solve the issue by Elaine Bakers and others in 2016. It's content about the combination preventive action by educate and increase awareness. It's terms of educating people by increase some campaign to educate for all clearing crew on solid waste management. This is focused on the management of the mountain. Next, I want to go to the research method. I use the qualitative case study that contains about the interview some people, and I have 3 people to do interview. Then what? And I also mix and match with the method. And the question that I want to use to interview the people is a question that I did from Timothy 2011 about the managing heritage and cultural tourism research. Although this is about the managing heritage and cultural tourism research, but it's have the relation with the how to management the mountains. And I choose 3 people to do interview that have experience and knowledge about the mountain, and they have minimals more than 5 times hiking. The first people is about the climber, commonly climber or experienced climber. The second of leader of one of climber organization in Yogyakarta, and the next is about the one of the leader of department hiking and one of organization in senior high school. And depend on my interview, I have the discussion and also conclusion in the findings. In the interview, I was asked the interviewer some question like the how they interact with the West Mountain, and also how they prepare as well to go to before to go to mountain, and also the challenge how when we try to watch the mountain. And I'm also asked them to their perspective about how to solve this what's issue in the mountain. And the result of the several question in the interview is about first, the participant perception toward the worst issue in the mountain area is the biggest what is called the biggest factor that contents depend on their perspective is about the self-awareness. Yeah, this is the several perspective from the interviewer. The second interviewer asked about the individual basically does not aware and care, and it will be impact that the campaign to reduce what will be carried out. And the third interview also talking to us about the how the low awareness of mountaineer, and it will be impacts to the goals will not be received. The next is about the strategy of climber to solve what's mountain. Several people have their own self-argument, but I want to resume in 2 strategies that will be explained in will also explain on other strategies. The first strategy is the before we go to mountain we should prepare well as well, because uh, in the mountain we don't need anything people, because we should uh, bring our things by ourselves, so that it is important to us to know how the track and also how the mountains itself we should know, and we should prepare it as well. And the second is use permanent container. As we know that this issue is um, this issue is more increased by the plastic waste. So to what cause to strategy to decreasing the plastic waste is to do use permanent container that less waste opportunities. This is the perspective of the first and the second interview. The first interview tell us about the preparing the mountaineering supplies has complicated. Sometimes people choose to find an easy way with instant things, such as we bring our plastic bag, and see that so that we should have more efforts to take. It is all depend on we treat ourselves to do that activity. So it depend on the first interview, they he explained to us about the self-awareness is the important things to decrease the waste mountain itself. And the second interview also explained us about the as much as possible do not bring plastic. We can buy of logistic in traditional market and minimize to use plastic wrap, and we can change it to the container that permanent. And the last is about the challenge encountered in the applying the strategies. The challenge is about the most challenges is about the willingness that clash with the self-awareness. If we have self-awareness but we don't have the willingness, it will make those strategies not maximize. And the second challenge is about the problem is the lack of base camp management to be solidity in managing. As we know, in the one mountain itself have contained more than two base camp or more than two tracks to go to mountain. So and every base camp have their different management. So it is the one of the challenges of this willingness to watch the mountain, because every base camp have their own perspective to decrease their waste mountain, and sometimes several base camp also don't care about this issue. They just try to find how the what call is keuntungan like this. In the conclusion, I want to explain what in order to deal with waste mountain, we should has required content as mountain and self-awareness, and the second is the mountain and prepare well, and the last is about the management base camp properly. These three of the solution should cooperate each other, because they have their what they have their perspective and positive action to decrease the waste mountains. And the challenge of these strategies is the low awareness, less management, and individual knowledge that should be properly addressed so that the environment in the mountain is well maintained. So everything I have been explained, and thank you for your attention. I hope that this paper have the positive impacts to the mountainer. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.